we're all here for a reason. And I think as I'm getting older and being more ingrained in this, community and stuff, I feel like giving back to make people's lives better is kind of like why I'm here. And sure, if it means like writing a mean breakdown so people can punch each other to it, like that's one version of it. And then if it's donating,
I'm ready for duty on that point. What is up, my friends? Thanks again for tuning in. This is the Scoped Exposure Podcast. I'm really excited about today's guest today. I met Rich a while back through some alternative means, and I've just been following along with his journey with running this this vegan business of his, and seeing people hit like a new milestone where, the stakes are just at a new level, and hitting something that, raising a ton of money and now creating an actual physical space for Born From Pain is just something that's just really exciting. I love to see the homies win. So I'm really excited to be welcoming Richie G, as some may say, from Born From Pain and EDICT on the Scope Exposure Podcast. Thanks for joining me, man.
Thank you so much for having me, Spencer. This is an honor, and I really appreciate it, man.
Of course. So Rich, I don't know if you've listened to past episodes of the show or know kind of the bev vibe. We were talking a little bit about it before we were recording, but we always like to check a beverage before we get into the music chats. So it's tradition for guests to go first. And it sounds like you have a few to showcase.
Yeah, this is an honor. I had mentioned I definitely am familiar with the podcast and the bev check. So I've got three right now. So I do my hydration earlier in the morning. So first one is my 32-ounce old spaghetti sauce container of 8 o'clock brand coffee, iced coffee with silk almond creamer. Okay.
Oh, okay. Wow.
2 of these. All right. And then I have the leftover of the coffee that I'm going to be probably
nice
as we go. And then
top it up. Yep.
So for traditional, you gotta have it. I got the Liquid Death Severed Lime. It's my favorite. And this will be my water for the day. So those are my bevs that I'm checking.
Some would say the holy trinity of beverages. So iced coffee, hot coffee, and sparkling water. So yeah, that's fantastic. Is the lime flavor for Liquid Death your favorite? I know some people like, there's some new stuff, and like I've only been able to do it. I just find the lime is the most consistent in my experiences, but
it's the most like soda without being soda. It's got a little sweetness to it, and I like lime stuff. Like just for personally, is like my favorite flavor. Like key lime pie is like my favorite like dessert, and like lime seltzer. I'm a seltzer guy. I'm very not like a seltzer nerd. There's like a hierarchy of like seltzer people, but I'm like a polar seltzer guy because I'm from the East Coast and Northeast. They're from Worcester, like pretty close to me. But like seltzer is my thing. And this, when I first had this, Liquid Death had sent EDICT a couple cases of stuff when we first started, and one of those cases was the Severed Lime, and I had one, and I thought it was just going to be like seltzer water, but it turns out it's a little bit sweet, and I was like, I'm hooked. So it's my favorite Liquid Death flavor. And this is not mad.
Yeah, this is not bad, but if for any avid fans of our show, like there were some seasons where I had just a wall behind me at times, and just because the set has changed so much with me moving around, we've this is actually the second episode that we're doing with the green screen kind of setup.
That's very cool.
So yeah, we're going to be using that in like future shows and different things, but that's that's just a little tease at the very beginning for the fans. So I'm drinking something. I've bought this previously, but the first time I bought it was to, I usually try to keep the fridge stocked with a variety of things, and then I kind of pick something the morning of. But what happened is I took that when we were doing some in-person like mini pods at a fest that was happening here, and one of my guests ended up taking it, and he was just talking so highly of it that I was just like, okay, I need to get a second one and have it. So I'm drinking a tropical punch Olipop.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a, the probiotic soda kind of vibe.
The healthy soda.
Um,
Oh,
the
should we
healthy
crack? Should we
soda.
crack at the same time? Can we do a three, two,
Sure,
one?
yeah. You
Yeah.
want to
All
count
right.
it down?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Ready? Three,
Yeah.
2, 1, crack. Nice. Cheers.
That was good. Cheers. Cheers to you, Rich. Excited to have you on, man. So I'm sure that we could spend I know that you also have a podcast, so I'm sure that we could spend a whole hour just talking beverages, but I want to make sure that we hit on a lot of music shit.
I'm a
as
talker.
well.
I'm a talker and a rambler, so just keep me reined in, Spencer. I definitely need those reins pulled a couple times. Feel free.
I feel like it's the best when someone that has that podcasting experience can kind of flip the host to guest kind of roles at times, so they can play both sides of the fence. But yeah, let's talk about some hardcore stuff. So
Sure, let's go for it.
Anytime I have a new guest here on the show, Rich, I always like to get a little bit of like the origin moments, kind of the context about what originally put you on the path to breakdowns and heavy music. So
Sure.
talk to me about like whether it was like a record, a show, what kind of like initially started things for you?
Yeah, man. I'll give you hopefully the abridged version. I grew up on Long Island, New York, in the mid '90s, starting to go to shows and stuff. But the first actual like concert music thing I went to, I was able to see Nirvana at Roseland Ballroom as my first concert as a kid in 1993. So that was my first exposure to live music and loud amplifiers and people moshing and all that stuff. Like I was just like watching MTV like any other, 16-year-old was at that time. And then shortly afterwards, I found a flyer in my high school for a show, like an actual hardcore. Like it was just a very weird, like time to be like, I really like music. I want to see this again. And it was for my first show was the band Shift from New York City. And a little band called Vision of Disorder from Long Island. Those were the two like headlining bands. Also Mouthpiece played, and a band called Grid played. There was a band from Long Island as well. It was at the Northport Pipeline Skate Park in 1994. It was my first exposure to underground music. So I went from like the biggest thing possible, obviously at the time, was like Nirvana in 1993, and then 1994 went to a hardcore show, saw VOD, and I was like absolutely terrified. And I was like, I got to do this over and over and over again. Like it was that moment where it was like, as a impressionable teenager, I saw the mosh pits and people screaming and jumping off the stage and heavy riffs and stuff. It was like music, because obviously I was like watching stuff that was on MTV or the radio or whatever. I was like a grunge guy, I was wearing flannels and Nirvana shirts all the time. It was my favorite band. Sure. And then it kind of like, that was a transitionary period. Like 1994, I just started getting into it and started going to shows. And this Northport Pipeline was pretty imperative to the Long Island scene. It was just like, they would have shows every weekend, whatever. You might be familiar with the NYHC documentary where it's like 108 and VOD and like a bunch of bands that's the skate park. That's the place.
Oh, okay.
On my first show.
Yeah.
A lot of that footage on YouTube. But anyway, so that's how I got into it. And then I met my best friend in the whole world, Neil Rubenstein, who's a professional comedian right now. He used to sing for the band Sons of Abraham back in the day. And he and I met just because of, the scene. He was a couple of years older, and then we just became friends. He gave me a tape, and like, he just knows so much about music. It was like Integrity was on it, Unbroken was on it, and then a whole bunch of like Shellac was on it, and like all these bands that I would never have found. And then just started going to shows, and then I got in my first band, and then like got into booking shows and stuff, going to the PWAC in Long Island. This was very like famous place for people up this way, and and then moved to Rhode Island for college, got into a band, and then you go through like someone like myself, just go through a cycle of like being in bands with dudes. You meet other people, and you just get another band. Oh, we need a guitar player, we need a bass player. Right. And that's kind of how I got into it. It was that, and then where I am now kind of has to do with like me filling in for the band Bury Your Dead like 3 times in their like height of their career. I played bass a couple times. I played guitar a couple times, and now Edict is a band. Joe, who used to sing for Bury Dead, he's the original singer, sings for Edict, and here we are right now. So that's the
Right.
abridged version. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's lots of like really cool things to break down. So you kind of had the not the full gambit, but you tried a lot of different things, like kind of getting into this. Like you did the band stuff, you were booking some shows, you were doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Did you find that was just more just like curiosity or just like obsession of like I want to get my hands on as much as possible?
It seemed like it was the only thing that I could have. It sounds so funny to say out loud. It's like where I the only place I felt like I fit in. But it's true. Like it sounds kind of cliche, but it really was where I fit in because I met all these people who were like-minded, who had the same senses of humor, had the same like moral standings, had the same sort of like just family situations that we related to each other in so many different ways. As far as the people went, and then the music was just like it clicked, like I was listening to like Korn and Machine Head and Nirvana, right? Like we all should have been. And then when I found this like underground version of those things that was kind of similar, whatever, I was like, this keeps happening. And then you can like be in a band that sounds like it was just like it was Pandora's box, right? There's so many different angles. And and then I put out a record eventually for a friend's band. I did like all the things, did a little zine, I did online stuff. It wasn't so much obsessive. It was more like this is what I feel like I'm like meant to be doing. Like, of course, I had like jobs and family obligations and relationships and stuff, but like it always came back to like, what show's happening, who's putting out a record, oh, I have band practice, oh, we should, we got to play the show. It like all comes back to that kind of stuff. So it was just nice to have that be. I mean, just like a relationship with a human being, you have this entity of like music that's a relationship, and you have all these sort of responsibilities when you're putting out records and being in bands and wanting to go to shows and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Right. Was playing guitar kind of the first instrument of choice, and did that kind of did the spark of that happen through hardcore, or were you like playing Nirvana covers and then eventually was introduced into like drop tunings and
it was
tremolo pickings?
Yes.
Shit.
It was it was very cool. So my stepdad, he was a musician in like New York City in like the mid 80s.
Okay.
He was a drummer. He played drums, right? He was a musician, played drums. He was in a band called Social Register. I was able to, sidetrack. I was able to track down, they put out 145 record at some point in the mid 80s, and like he had lost it. I was able, because of the internet, I was able to like search and I found someone who had it, who had digitized it and uploaded it to this random site, but and I gave it to him as a birthday present. He hadn't heard it in like 40 years. Anyway, he was a drummer, and he would play drums in the basement at our house, and I wanted to play guitar, and I babysat my mom's friends' kids a whole bunch so I could save up cash. I rode my bike to Sam Ash, and I was like, I need to play guitar. Like when you're watching this happen, and it's like, as a 14, 15-year-old dude, like you gotta play guitar. It's like the next step. When you love music, you listen to it, you got to play it. So having the musician stepdad playing drums all the time, and he's always wondering, what are you gonna do? You gonna play anything, whatever? And I'm like, I guess. Rode my bike down to Sam Ash. I bought a Pro Session like Stratocaster for like $125, the equivalent of like a Squire. Rode it home, like literally like rode it home on my bike, holding it with one hand, like got home, had no idea how to tune it, had no idea how to play it, had no idea how to do anything to it, but I like knew. I was like, all right, here we go. We have my guitar. And then finally I took a lesson from this dude in my computer science class in school. His name was Jim Slavin. And he was like a 80s hair metal kind of guitar player, like virtuoso guy. And he was like, if you want to learn, like come by, I'll teach. So I went by, he taught me how to tune the guitar. He taught me Last Caress by Misfits. But at that time for me, it was Metallica. It was the Garage Days. Like the first time I heard that song was because of Metallica's cover from the Garage Days.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I didn't. So so a side note, I was not like a punk guy. I wasn't like I didn't get into the Misfits. I didn't get into the Ramones. I didn't get into like Operation Ivy. Like I didn't get into that stuff. I was like straight into like, I went Nirvana, then like Machine Head, Slayer, Korn, like that guy, and I still
Right.
am. Like that's stuck. So once I learned how to play some power chords, he taught me how to play power chords. I got home and then went down to the basement after years of just like learning power chords, buying these like, they're called fake books, like music. Like I learned how to read tablature. I don't know how to read music. I don't know music theory or anything. I was very like self-taught. Like I learned how to play power chord, then went down to the basement after like enough like power chords and learning how to play like, Last Caress or like White Zombie, like dun 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 dun. Like I'd go down with my stepdad and he'd play drums, and I was like, oh, this is cool, because like I had a small amplifier on the guitar. And then from there, like he saw that like I really liked it, and I liked music so much, he bought me my first Telecaster and a Fender Twin combo amp and the original whammy pedal, because I liked Rage Against the Machine so much at that time also. And that was
okay.
That was the setup, and he knew that. And then, like, that was like a birthday, Christmas present he got me. And then like that's where the music part of it was. And I just would sit in my room and just try to learn songs of bands that I enjoyed. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting because some people, when they come on the podcast and they have a parental figure that who maybe has a little bit more experience with the heavy music world, and if they play an instrument, usually it's whatever mom or dad is doing or whatever their parent is doing. You want to mimic that, but like there's no doubt about it. It's like owning a guitar and learning how to play that's the gateway into like actually like being able to write, because like you can write on drums. And I guess like I am learning with seeing more people who can like write like drums first and then throw stuff on top of it. But when you're super young, like you need to have chords and actual like notations versus like, okay, I'll just play double bass to nothing in my basement forever,
Yeah.
So I guess like was there a thought in your mind at any point to play drums like your stepdad, or were you just like so gung ho on the guitar?
I always loved the drums, and I did end up playing drums at one point in a band, probably about 10 years ago now. Drums were always like a thing that just I always thought were so complicated and also expensive, which they are. Like they're so like, it's like I didn't come from like great means or anything. Like I had like to like really like buying a guitar was like the most expensive.
It's way more accessible.
Yeah. It's like
one
of those kind of things. I was like, I spent $150 and I got my guitar and I can start, right? And then looking at drums, like, holy crap, this is like a lot. But guitar was like the thing I wanted to do. And it was the thing I wanted to kind of like focus in on. I did play clarinet in like junior high school. It was like music class. So you had to pick an instrument, right? They were like, all right, you're going to learn whatever. And like, it's this weird like curricular thing in high school, or wasn't even high school. I think it was elementary or junior high school here. And I picked clarinet for whatever reason. That was my very first entry to music and instruments. And they taught us how to read music, and I faked it. I had no idea. Like I still have no idea. Like I had to play this like line of music, and I was taught it one time, and then I memorized it, and I faked it the time that I had to like actually play it in front of the teacher, because like you sit down with the music stand and the music in front of you, and you're all right. I literally,
at least in clarinets, there's enough of you where you can kind of like, let me just go on mute for a second. Like
I know this note at this time.
I played euphonium in I don't think I've ever told this on the podcast, but I played euphonium in middle school, and I think that there was 3 of us, and it's like proficiency wise, I was probably like just got across like C's get the euphonium degrees, but what's funny looking back is my first girlfriend at the time also played euphonium, and we sat next to each other. So it was like this weird euphonium couple. And then we broke up, and then just every band class was just the worst thing ever, because I had to like boom, 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 next to this girl that we split from. So
and they wouldn't move you. The euphonium section had to stick together, huh?
The third person on the other side was just like, damn, I can, the tension is.
This is awkward, yeah. Womp, womp, right? Every time.
Yeah, literally that. That is so funny. So without getting too off the rails off
Yeah,
of
sure. Yeah.
you know,
Bring me
band
in. Bring
class
me in.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so you started doing the guitar stuff. I just love the visual, as you're saying, of just like, you know, riding on your bike and holding the guitar in one hand. I
Absolutely.
think like this is maybe a more broader like question that I'd be curious for the other guitarists who are going to be listening to, but I honestly think that whoever decided to name a power chord, like if it was anything else, if it was like something more technical, I feel like it wouldn't sound as cool.
You're right. You're very right. Yeah, that's a crazy question that just like blew my mind. Thinking about if that one certain term was anything else, it
Like
wouldn't.
even if you're playing like a drop D or drop anything tuning, like a bar chord doesn't sound as cool as a power chord, but if anything, it is like heavier, air quotes. Like, I don't know.
It's
Pretty interesting.
the power chord is literally like power. Like you play one and you're like this feels like something. And that's, you know,
Right.
honestly, that's what it felt like for me. Like when this dude Jim was teaching me power chords,
Hmm.
I didn't know that, like what you just said, like that's what it's called. That's the terminology of it. That's like the musical term. It's a power chord. It's a fifth, right? Like if you want to be
Hmm.
weird and technical, which I won't be, but it's like it's a power chord. You know, and I thought he like when he first was saying it, that was like just like he what we was calling it, and then I learned very quickly, and then I was like, oh,
Hmm.
this you're right. This is powerful, and you can play any song with power chord. It's a cheat. It really is like a guitar cheat. It's an easy way to play full notes and songs. But yeah, man, if it was anything else, like if it was the fifth chord, you know, it just kind of loses its chutzpah, you know.
Can you hit me with a 5/7 real quick? Like, yeah, it doesn't hit the same. Like,
I don't know. What? Give me an example. Give me an example.
of what?
Oh, you mean like a five set? Like that's what it's called. Like
Yeah,
hit
yeah,
me with
because
a
that's
five.
where your
Yeah, I
fingers are
get you.
going on
I
the
get you. Yeah,
strings,
hit me
right?
with a
Yeah,
five
yeah,
seven. Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah,
thought
yeah.
you were like telling me to name a 5/7 riff, and then I have to like
Oh no, 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 no,
name
no, no.
every single like Swedish metal band that I've listened to ever.
Listen, I've seen and filmed a number of scram bands, so I'm like so in tune with the most obscure like time signatures at times, but like I will 95% of the time when I'm writing music, it's in 4/4.
Yep.
Like I'll be a four, like I've been a 4/4 guy and probably will be till the day I die. And then like the one time it's like, oh, there's like an extra bar here. Like, but that's not
Dude,
where I'm trying to go all the time.
the extra bar throws me off all the time. George, who's the other guitar player in Edict, he really loves those extra little flippy flip things on the end of riffs, and those
Yeah.
always throw me off because I'm a 4/4 guy. I'm a like dun 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 dun. That's it, right? And it's like
Right.
four of those four times, and you're good. And he's a little bit like he put some flair on it. And every time we have a song that like his riff is like the main riff, it takes me a little extra time to get that because my caveman brain is just like four of these four times, and you know you don't even have to look at the fretboard. You know what you're doing. So
Right.
it's cool to be in a band with somebody who has a little flair. And for me, again, it kind of goes back to not really learning too much music theory or learning like I don't know how to solo. I just know how to riff. Like that's my thing. I can riff and that's what I can do. And I think that's what's important for the style of music I play. And it's like sometimes I look at it, I'm like, man, I wish I learned how to solo. I wish I learned scales and modes and all this stuff. And then sometimes like, nah, I'm good. I can pinch harmonic, I can drop tune, and I can, you know.
Yeah, I get hit a nasty dive bomb from time to time, but I'm the same exact way, dude. Like I think in the guitar lessons shit, I would like just come with my iPod Classic or whatever it was at the time, and like I would have this some Slipknot song queued
Mhm.
up. I'm like, how do I make this noise? And it's like some kind of weird harmonic fret thing. Um, so and it's funny because both Jordan and I were at a show here in Calgary last night, and there was like a very young, kind of like a crossover kind of band who was opening up, and it was like so apparent that one of the guitarists is just like, I am a guitar god and I need to show you and just hit like
For sure.
an 8 to 16 measure solo. And I'm like, that's sick. But I also want to hear like the cool riffs where it like really pulls everything back and like you
Absolutely.
see everyone's head start to bob a little bit more versus just like, cool. Oh, okay. You went up there? Oh, okay. Oh, your whole okay. You know, like it
Now
just
you're
it
tapping. Oh,
loses.
you're
So
using like four fingers now. That's sick. That's like sick. I mean, I like I'm
oh
legit.
no, he's putting the pick in his mouth. Oh shit. Yeah, yeah.
That is sick. Like I give like the massive props to everybody who can do that. And it's just like not for me, you know. It's like the Rolling
Right.
Stones. Like I get it, but it's not for me. You know what I mean? Like,
Right. Right. Right.
you know, I appreciate it, but I just want to riff and hit pinch harmonics all the time. Like all my riffs have some sort of like pinch harmonic that holds the whole thing together. You know what I mean?
Right. It's the glue for
Yeah.
the rich riffs. Has that ever been coined?
It hasn't. You just did it right now.
That's my job.
Exclusive.
Speaking of riffs, and you know, we were talking about gear a little bit. One of the things that I wanted to chat with you about was your guitar head.
Yes.
So you have a sticker that says "Transphobes eat shit and die alone." Heart. The heart being very, you know, with peace and love, go fuck
Yes.
yourself kind of
Yes.
vibes.
Exactly. Fuck yourself with love. Exactly.
So initially, I was like, "Oh, okay, that's like just kind of a cool like thing to personalize your gear and you know kind of go also with some like positive messaging."
Yes.
But what was also interesting to me is that I saw that you made I guess there was such excitement around you doing that you made stickers and all these
Yeah.
other things. So can you talk to me about like what like the first time you thought about doing that or what prompted you to do that?
Absolutely. And it's good. And thank you for asking that question because I always do want to clarify the origin of why I did this because
Sure.
a lot of people will give me credit for it. And I didn't do it first.
Mm.
Ephraim from Godspeed You Black Emperor, the like amazing band from Canada. Ephraim had that exact sentiment with gaff tape on one of their amps at some point and had posted it on whatever social media, and then it was like reposted by something and I saw it and I was like fuck yeah. I was like that is probably something I mean that message myself and my band and all of the people I'm surrounded with will back up till the day we die, right? Like that's one of
100%.
the things we stand behind. And I was like I hate having stuff on my amplifier that says what it is. So I'm going to take that 5150 plate off of it and I'm going to put this gaff tape on and I'm going to write. And the little heart was my little custom little flair to it.
Yeah.
I put it on there. And I, you know, it was just kind of one of those things where one of my best friends is a trans woman and I have been through their journey for the last 20 years of becoming the person they are and the trials and tribulations and difficulty it is to be a trans woman in this world, right? I have a very strong stance on supporting our trans community and all the communities that have difficulty being who they are. So the message isn't just like oh that shit's cool, let me put it, like I mean it, we mean it, like I
Right, for
stand behind
sure.
this,
Yeah,
you know what
yeah.
I mean? So I put it on my amp excuse me, I put it on my amp and I'm a big believer in if I could put a message somewhere that can be seen by other people, because I have a little bit of a privileged platform by like literally like being on a stage is a platform. You like even if it's an inch off the ground, you're the focus of an attention for like 25 minutes while your band is playing. And if I can put something on my amp that will send a message and obviously people will see it and be like, oh, this band stands for that. And also, oh, the dude whose amp that is stands for that. And I believe in that. I like that, right? That's something that's cool, right? Then I posted my amp on like probably it was Instagram. I just posted a picture of it and lots of people were like, hell yeah, hell yeah. I was like, oh, all right. Then like I didn't Instagram for me is like my little like safe space where I just like will throw whatever like things out there and it's
Throw a
just
photo of you mowing the grass in Crocs and just call it a day.
mow the grass and Crocs. You're right. Wow, you deep dove that. Yeah, all right. I love being a goofball, but also I love letting people know that inside of the goofball is I do have some serious stances on stuff. I'm not very outspoken, but this was my way of being, showing how I support the trans community. So it kind of like a lot of people are like, that's sick, that's sick. And I was like, one person was like, yo, you should make a sticker out of that. And I was like, oh, that's all right. That's a wow. That's like, didn't consider it at all. And I was like, you know what? Let me do that, but I'll make a sticker, but let me flip it and let me just any money that I make, let me just donate it to a local organization here in Providence that supports trans youth and has programs and safe spaces for trans youth in Providence. So that's what I did. I made the sticker. It was a fundraiser. It raised a bunch of money, and I donated it just directly to the YPRI Youth Project Rhode Island, I believe is the name of it. And just gave them some money for this message. And that was the full circle for it. It was like it's a great message. And then it just kind of like morphed into this thing, and we had a lot of support for it. So yeah, that's the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a very like hardcore mindset. Like I feel like outside of the scene, someone would be like, oh, like people are resonating with this. Maybe the person can make some profit off of it versus
man.
like, oh, like a bunch of my friends is in this underground, like niche culture want to do it. We can raise some money. And if that means that even if it's like $200, $300, $500 that, can be from the profits of those stickers that can be donated, like, it's just like two different ways of looking at it versus like, I'm going to start a
Like a sticker company,
sticker business where it's all political and all that kind of stuff.
You nailed it, man. I am very, I don't want to say I'm anti that, but the sentiment that you bring up is very accurate to how I feel as well. Like profiteering off of like a social issue is so gross. Like it's just like not our vibe. It's not my vibe. It's not my band's vibe. It's not my people's vibe, like it's just as a weird aside, or we're going in this direction. I'm opening my own business, right? And like that's capitalism in its purest form. You open a business and you're making money. However, we'll talk about it. That's not my intent. You know what I mean? Like all of this stuff, like the hardcore DIY scene has taught me to like always give back, always do something positive. And that's what I was, with the stickers and stuff. Like there's no way in a million years I would have taken that money and been like, cool, man, thanks, and like ran off and like bought a new guitar. Like that doesn't belong to me. That sentiment doesn't belong to me. It belongs to them. Right. And it's like, if I can do something positive, if I can give back, like that's literally like, I feel like as I get older, like that's why I'm put here on this earth. I don't have like religious beliefs or anything like that, but I do have a little bit of like a, woo woo in me, I guess, if you want to put it, that way. It's like, we're all here for a reason. And I think as I'm getting older and being more ingrained in this, community and stuff, I feel like giving back to make people's lives better is kind of like why I'm here. And sure, if it means like writing a mean breakdown so people can punch each other to it, like that's one version of it. And then if it's donating,
I'm ready for duty on that point.
And then it's like, donating money to an organization that helps trans youth. They're weirdly enough for me, they're the same thing, because they give somebody something that they end up leaving like feeling good about it. Like I gave something. So
right. Yeah, I think I almost try to look at it as like there's like macro reasons of like my purpose, but then there's also like more micro instances of like, this whole sticker facade doesn't need to last the entire like a decade. It could just be like something that I can act on right now and have a positive impact. And then if it comes back around, we can revisit that. But like, it's not something that, I think like if people are feeling like, well, if something comes up where it doesn't really align with like, if they're so like woo-woo about their purpose, like just realizing this, like you said, you have influence. You saw that there was a tension of like, hey, like I I can resonate with this and I want to, like purchase something, and then you took it upon yourself to do that action of like setting up the shop and doing that. And like that all could just be very easily missed. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
applaud you for, jumping on it and making it happen. Have you
Thank you.
seen any of those stickers in the wild or
I have
just yours?
actually. Yeah, I have.
Okay, cool.
There's been a couple times, and actually funny. I just realized that I had like a bunch of leftovers over here on my desk here. So if anybody's
Oh,
looking,
nice.
that's the sticker we're talking about. And that's my amp. So uh,
Do you have a link for that,
I
or where
don't.
do
So
people
I
find
turned
that?
that off after I did a couple runs of them. I like what you literally just said. Like I was like, all right, we're done with that. You
Right,
know what I
right.
mean? Like but I mean, I do have probably like 20 of them here. So if you want to do something special, like if first 20 people to like be like, yo, I want one on that listen to the podcast, let me know. And
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, no, that's
Uh,
they're just literally just sitting here. So but yeah,
okay.
I've seen them in the wild.
We'll figure something out.
Yeah.
Jordan, try to note, like we'll do the question on the episode, or like, do you want one of Rich's stickers? I don't. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I think
You
that'd
know,
be very cool.
yeah, just me
Um,
want to give away and that's but yeah, I see him quite a few are in Providence in the venues and stuff and like randomly in like somewhere in like Connecticut. I was in a bathroom I saw. It's very cool how it's like
nice.
proliferated. Like didn't expect it and it's very cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So the last question on this, and then
Yeah.
we'll move to some edict stuff.
Sure.
Obviously, there's a lot of positive things that have come from this. I'm just curious if it sparked any contentious conversations, whether someone's like coming like helping load gear, and then they're like, oh, sticker or whatever. I'm just kind of curious if it's all been positive, or if there's been something where it's actually prompted a conversation.
I guarantee that there's probably been somebody that's seen my head and been like, oh, been turned off by it. And that's their prerogative, right? I've never had somebody be like, "Oh," it's like to my face,
Sure.
nobody has been, either online or in person or peripherally like, "Oh, I heard so and so was like doesn't like your band anymore because of your
Because you
belief."
have an offensive sticker.
Yeah,
Like,
right? It's like fuck off. Like no, you're offensive. But no,
mhm.
it's thank you for asking too because I you've known me for a couple of years because of the internet and stuff and you kind of see what kind of person I am and I think I put myself out there in a very easy way where people know what my vibe is and stuff and people know that I'm well intentioned and are the things that I do are well intentioned. So I if anybody who was a friend of mine or a friend of a friend or whatever did want to say something, I think they respect me enough to like not say it and just like let our differences be differences, in
Mhm.
how we think about things. When Edict went, we had a tour. We went down south and back, and the southern United States is a little bit more apt to probably not be supportive of these views, right? That's just the
Mhm.
reality of it.
Or
So
these stickers.
these stickers, right? These stickers, and it's on my head, and we're playing venues down south where there's more and more chance of that kind of interaction where somebody might
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
be not down. But to answer your question, thankfully, I appreciate like the positivity that it's brought, and it has brought no negativity. And part of the stickers and the message that's on my head is like, bring it then. Like, if you want to argue about it, I'm a cool guy. I'll have a conversation. I'm not going to incite any sort of violence or like argument or whatever. But if somebody sees that and like is offended by it, good. First of all, if you're offended by that, good. Like you should be because you're the person that we don't want, in our community. This is kind of like this is my way of kind of like making you think about where you're at, right? But I'm not in your face about it and I'm thankful that like I can be a little bit aggressive in my ways, but like not verbally, just sort of passively. Like, you see it, you think about it. If you support it, you support it. And if you don't, if you want to talk to me about it, sure. But if you don't, thank you for just respecting, our differences. So
Yeah, it is. Well, I'm very curious because like I know it's the 99% of people who are like, fuck yeah, that rules. This is sick. And I have a feeling that posting the clip from this podcast on the reels, there's going to be that 1% that gets hard ratioed as far
Oh
as
yeah.
whatever their view is.
Oh yeah.
So,
Oh yeah.
um,
Man,
I,
yes.
yeah, there's like it's funny because I still to this day get notifications about this reel from there's a band up from Ontario called Street Justice, and they're a vegan straight edge band.
Sick.
And uh their singer Mike, he's a very close friend of mine, and he's a power lifter. So he's a very strong boy. He's not the slimmest, but he's got the that's what he does.
Sure.
So I was filming one of their shows, and he said, and anyone knows him, he's like a fucking goofball. Like his favorite food is broccoli, and he like brags about it. But he said at the show, he was like, go vegan, come on, man. I'm literally stronger than all of you. Just fucking do it. And then he was like making fun of people who were like, where's my protein?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I think I've seen this clip. This sounds very familiar.
Yeah, you might have
absolutely.
seen it because it went
yes.
fucking mega viral. Like
Yeah.
I've never in my life seen something go as crazily. And it's still to this day, I get like people finding it, and like I don't even know if it's a 50-50 split as far as people who are like, this is sick. And then there's like all the meat eaters are like, this is fucked. And or he skipped leg day or whatever the thing is.
Right.
And but it is it'll be interesting, at least for this specific segment and thing that we're talking about.
Yeah.
But the first 20 people might be getting a sticker. We'll set it up.
Hell yeah. I'm happy to give these back. Man, I found these because one of my friends, Chris Teddy, who's in The World's Beautiful Place and No Longer Afraid to Die, that band. He also is a producer at the studio Silver Bullet Studios, where Edict has recorded our past couple things. And he hit me up actually recently. He's like, we're coming through. We're practicing near you. Do you have any more of those stickers? And this had been like probably 6 months since I had done the thing. And I was like, actually, let me look around. And I found them, and we didn't end up getting together, of course, because that's how things work with people in bands. You're like, yeah, we'll hang, and then you don't even see the person. But yeah, so I found this packet of stickers. So you guys will win because Chris Teddy did not. So
sorry, Chris, you slept. So let's talk about it's funny at the time we're recording this episode because I didn't realize until the night before, but Edict not only having a record release show, but kind of like a record release weekend. So
correct.
We're kind of packing a few things into one. It's a very Edict heavy weekend for you, Rich. But y'all put out at the end of last year in December, y'all put out In Defense of Labor through Unbeaten Records. Listening back to that, I was just like, again, as soon as I let first track, I was like, okay, I know Rich is like a riff fiend. But talk to me about just like, we're a few months in with that release being out, and I'm not sure how many shows you've gotten to play to see the reaction of it, but what's been the takeaway of that so far since putting it out?
Well, the feedback and the response to the EP has been just like, I mean, unreal as far as like positive comments and new people reaching out and being into the band. And it's like, we started this band as a COVID project, probably like a lot of bands that have been around for 4 years now. We got together in like November of 2020, and we're like, what are we going to do? Let's write some riffs. All right, cool. And here we are. We have 2 releases. We've done a couple tours, but the In Defense of Labor thing was like the first thing that we've done for a label, Unbeaten Records. So shout out to Buddy and Unbeaten. Like he's been like a supporter of us since we played like Albany the first time. Like he came to our show, he chatted us up. We became friends with him, and it wasn't like let's try to get on the label. It wasn't. It was just like, he's an old hardcore dude. We're old hardcore dudes. We play some music he likes. And then he offered, to put out the EP because we are very big on kind of trying to do everything ourselves, as much as we can do ourselves as possible within our financial means, as a band who is just like, we're a small band, right? We're still starting out. Even though we've been around for 4 years, we're not anything huge or anything by any means. So we want to keep that ethic, and we like try to do everything ourselves. Buddy's such a nice guy, and he was like, let's just do your EP, I'll do it for you. And we're like, sick. Put it out. We put out the Trader was the first like single. I mean, there's only 4 songs, right? So to say a single off of a 4-song EP is like kind of weird, but like we put out Trader. We did a live video for it. It was just like live clips and stuff, and people loved it. And we put out Neck Dissection pretty recently. That was like the second single, and Neck Dissection is probably my favorite song from our whole catalog at this point.
Yeah.
And then that kind of like got a little bit more, but because those 2 songs are kind of different, and it was kind of like we're on a little bit bigger of a platform. We have a record label kind of like pushing a little bit more. We have a little bit more exposure, right? And more people are like, oh, okay, all right, cool. And we put out the EP, and people really like it. The number, the Spotify numbers, like this hasn't been a thing for me. Like, I'm an old guy. I'll be 46 this year. Like, the things that you have to consider as a band in 2024 aren't the things I had to consider being in a band in 1996, right? Like,
For sure. I know I'm so much younger. Like, I'm 31, but like I remember the days of just being like, I was talking to someone at the show last night about this. It's like just posting on Bandcamp and being like, all right, it's up. It's good. And not like I have to send it to the streaming gods, and did I do the right distribution, and all the credits are all fucked up, and like, oh, did we do a single prior? And it's a totally different.
It's a different world right now. And I'm learning a lot, and I'm very thankful for being able to learn the current like style of being in a band, right? Like, there's like the Spotify numbers for all of our songs have definitely like peaked in the last couple months because we're getting a little bit more exposure. We try to play, and Joe, our singer, calls it like the hardcore reserves, right? We do like 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks a year as far as touring. we try to we try to do at least 1 weekend a month, which we're doing right now. It's the In Defense Labor release weekend. So we played last night in Providence at AS2 Twin. We sold out the small venue that we booked it at. It was crazy. There was so many people in there. And so thank you everybody who came out. I'm still like, don't believe that happened. It was such a great show. And we're playing in Maine, by Portland, Maine tonight. And then Worcester, Massachusetts on Sunday with Gum Scab and Blood Tithe, our buddies from the area. So it's just been unreal. Like, seeing the show last night and seeing the amount of people who stuck around to see us. We headlined, we played, and to see the room still full when we played, I was like, oh, we're doing something right. Like, people, there's a room full of strangers to me, and I'm like, these kind of things, these are like the woo-woo moments I tell you about, like seeing a room full of strangers, like, listen to my band, buy our merch, headbang, mosh, pat me on the back while I'm riffing. You know what I mean? It's like the coolest experience, and that's what I want to hold on to as long as I can with doing music, and like when EDICT started a couple years ago, it was kind of like between me, Joe, and George. We're a bit older, we're all in our 40s, and we've been doing this for a very long time, and we kind of were like, this is it, this is the last one, boys. We're gonna do anything, this is gonna be the last one, you know what I mean? And my goal has always been to get to Europe and play my music in Europe. I've never been to Europe with a band and played my own music, right? I haven't played any music. So that was one of my goals. They have been, and we're like, and if we can do it with as much DIY ethic as possible, that's really important to us as well. So with the people that are supporting the new EP and the older EP and just like all the stuff that we do, it's unreal, man. And the feedback has been just something I never thought I'd see with one of my bands. And it's the first band I actually started from zero. I've always been in bands as a, like, oh, Rich plays whatever, he'll fill in, and like I'll learn another.
Right, you were the staple on member.
Yes, exactly. Always. I've never been in a band where like been successful in like writing my own songs and then playing them and then recording them, and so this is the first of a lot of things for me, and I'm so thankful.
Yeah, it's definitely like kind of similar. Like, I've definitely had like my own like passion projects or babies, but like especially when I was getting into hardcore, I was like, well, I'll just play second guitar in anything, whether it's a thrash band or kind of like a metallic heavy band. And I honestly, like, I like playing both sides of the field, where someone I see someone who has like a vision and they're like a formula as far as how they're crafting riffs and all that. And it's like, oh, I can just sit back and get to enjoy the benefits of that, of just playing and being involved. It's but I also have been on the other side where it's like just so meticulously like Einstein brained about like how a transition or how things are coming together. And that can be daunting at times when there's too many people like that in the mix and there's
Mm-hmm.
like butting of heads.
Yeah.
So it's like almost a unicorn situation where it's like everyone can be that fully creative, but also like like truly collaborative, not being like,
Yes.
oh, like well, you get this one and I get it's like, no, we're all like kind of doing that together.
I love
So
that. Yeah,
but
that's
that
definitely the vibe. Yeah.
it takes time to find the right people who are like who have been in enough bands to check egos and
Yeah,
like
man.
put that shit aside to make all that stuff actually happen.
Yeah, it's really cool. Me, George, and Joe, we're like I said, we're the older guys, and Boomer, our bass player, and Max, our drummer, are like a good 15 to 20 years younger than us, which
Mhm.
is awesome because as I was just saying about like I don't know how to be in a band in 2024 because there's so many like new young hip things happen. I feel like I'm legit like a music boomer. I really like I'm like holy crap, I'm that guy sometimes.
Mhm.
Like I had no idea about like streaming numbers and when you want to book a show, promoters are going to want, "Oh, what's your Spotify numbers?" Like, "What? Really? That's a thing?"
Yeah.
But having all of us who are very like-minded musically but very talented in our own ways, and then we like George will write a song, write some riffs, and he'll have electronic drums behind it, and then we'll go, they'll send it in the group chat, we'll listen to it, then we get to practice, and then we all get to put our like little unique thing to it, you know what I mean? And that's very important for us to be like that group. Like it's a band, it's not just a guy that has some songs that you like, oh, this is how it goes. So like it's like the perfect storm of all these different egos, ages, experience, and talent all within Edict's like 5 people, and I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah. I feel like every band's percentage as far as like how much someone is doing, whether it's on the writing side or even on like the logistical like booking stuff, like it's never the same across the board. There are
Right.
bands that I know that like it's one dude and everyone else is just like, I'm just along for the ride and I'm totally good with that.
Yeah.
And then there's the other side where it's like there's 20% here, there's 25, there's 15, but like this person also runs merch and does design. Like
Yeah.
it's it's not something that could be really written down and given to someone when they're a little bit newer to this shit. You kind of
Yeah.
have to like it's really based off experience.
Yeah. You all teach each other something. It's good.
Hmm. So the biggest, I guess, milestone or goal when it comes to EDIC, at least for you personally, is getting over to Europe, which
Yeah.
I hope for any of the European listeners who know someone who knows someone, I would like to see that
Hit us up.
happen finally
Hit us
for
up.
Rich.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys have shit kind of like plan for the year, like at least stuff that you can talk about, or is it more like it's under wraps until it
No, we
rounds?
like we're at a spot where crazily enough, because we are very, very big on like pre-booking stuff and getting stuff like 6 to 7, 8 months out of the, booked. Because that's how you have to do things nowadays, which is crazy. Another learning thing. But right now, we don't really have much after booked after August. We are going on a 2-week tour starting next Friday. So we're doing our record release weekend this weekend, and then Friday of next week we go out for 2 weeks with our buddies on Unbeaten Records, Wisdom and War. They're our
Okay.
friends from Central Massachusetts. We've been friends with them for a while, and we basically teamed up. We booked a 2-week tour. We're going all the way down to Florida, coming all the way back in 2 weeks. We're doing that, and then we just have like a random show here or there. June and July, we're just doing a couple things. George is actually in Drop Dead, the band Drop Dead. He plays bass in Drop Dead, so he is going on tour in July with Drop Dead. So we there's another element to these kind of things too, when you have other guys in other bands that are bigger than and more professional, so to speak. And so yeah, Edict's on hold for July. So what we really always kind of say is like, all right, we got a month off. We're gonna write. We're gonna have a whole write. Yeah, man. We're not gonna write. We're not gonna have a whole write. We're lucky if we have two riffs that one of us hates. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
that's like that's like how it goes. But yeah. So to answer your question, yeah, we're actually kind of like, because of the fact that I'm going to be opening my business very soon. That's a very like weird point of like what the future lies for my involvement in the band. Not saying that I'm like not going to be in the band or anything crazy like that, but like I'm going to own my own business, like a brick and mortar food service business. So I told the dudes, like, once everything started getting rolling here, I was like, edict stuff can't just be like some random weekend because we feel like it. Like, I think we're going to need to
it needs to be a little bit more meticulously planned,
exactly.
for sure.
So we are really big on like, let's play wherever, whenever, because we feel like it. We'll play wherever. We'll play in somebody's living room. We'll open for Obituary, which we've done. We'll do whatever. We'll run the gamut. We don't care. We want to play to people. However, when you get to a point like we're all in, where as adults we have these like, financial responsibilities, just life responsibilities. So we'll be a little bit more picky and choosy as the rest of the year comes on. But if anybody in Europe is like, yo, this band's sick, I will hire a bunch of people to work my store and I'll be in Europe. I'll be riffing in Europe. It's fine.
Yeah, please. We have to, because I wouldn't even call it manifesting, but I would just like I like dreaming on the podcast that if and when it happens, it's like here we clipped it.
Yeah. I love that. And I mean, can I reference the One Step Beyond podcast? Can I reference this?
Sure. Yeah.
When I was on the One Step Beyond podcast, Aram asked me where I saw myself in 2, 5, and 10 years, right? And with my Born from Pain business, my seitan business. And I said, in 2 years, I want my business to have a small storefront in Providence. 2.5 years later, I have a small storefront in Providence. I was like, had forgotten about that conversation. But then as things had been starting, like I've been starting to roll out my new brick and mortar stuff. I was like, wait a second, didn't he ask me? And then I went back and and I was like, he did. And it was like, the timing was perfect. And when he asked me that question, and whenever anyone asked me, where do you see yourself in whatever, or where do you see your thing? And I'm like, I just want it to succeed as long as it can. Like, I just want it to be as good as it can be, and I want it to last as long as possible. And I never want to like draw anything out, like if something, fades away, great. But he asked, where I saw my business. And I was like, you know what? I kind of think that maybe in a couple of years, I want to have a brick and mortar. And it was like, wasn't the kind of like answer that I would say like was premeditated. He kind of put me on the spot, and I was like, but putting me on the spot and thinking about it, I'm like, that's a doable thing. And man, the woo-woo in the world over the last 2 years, it really like from that moment on,
the woo-woo is real. Yeah.
The woo-woo is real, man. It manifested. And with all the other things that have been going on personally, we're here and things are actually happening. Yeah.
So well, it's funny because you're saying like, oh, because I'm starting my business, but you've already in theory started a business.
Yes.
But this is just
this is like part 2 of
this is part 2. Yeah.
It's the next step for sure.
Yeah. So like I know originally when you were telling some of the lore behind that, like I'm just trying to remember all the pieces. I think it was like during COVID times, you just like saw like a TV commercial or some kind of infomercial about seitan, and you were like, oh, I could do that. That's how things...
To clarify, it was you're accurate. I was watching the show with Jon Favreau on Netflix. It was like the chef show or whatever. It was like that Netflix series that Jon Favreau did. He would go around to all of his like cooks, friends, and chef friends, and he would like have them cook and they'd all eat together, because he had that like Jon Favreau had that movie. I think it was
about the chef or the chef show. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that sounds exactly right. Yeah. And
okay, cool.
I was watching that, and there was an episode he was like making bread, and I was like, and literally, you're right. It was like just sitting there in COVID times, like everybody else was doing the bread thing, right? That was like the meme that came out of COVID, right? Everybody's just making bread, and I had never done it before, so I did it. And I knew how to
Can't
make
make bread, so they'll make bread.
yeah, make that bread. Yes.
Yeah.
And I was like, let me just try this. Let me do it. And I had made seitan before because being a longtime vegan, I've tried all of the recipes, all the things, and I had successfully done that. But the motivation was literally just watching this show and watching somebody make a big loaf of bread, and I was like, yo, let's try that. And then with the bread, I was like, yo, let me just make some seitan, and it came out great. And I just kept doing it and like experimenting because we all had all the time in the world at that time, and I was just like doing it over and over again. And then like some people were like, yo, can I get a loaf of bread? I was like, yeah, sure. Why not? I'm not doing anything else. And it really just kind of like morphed into this like idea. It was like, all right, well, I can do it. I do it well. People like it. I know how to make seitan. Seitan's a very unique thing that not a lot of people know how to make, or if they try to make it, never comes out right. I hear that story all the time, especially, when I do farmers markets and stuff with Born from Pain, like people buy my seitan because they're like, I've tried this before. I can't do it. I don't know how you do it. I'm like, yeah, it's literally like, it's a science. Making seitan to be consistent and taste good and feel right is like a little science. So anyway, that is exactly how it happened. It was like a COVID thing, watching that TV show. So shout out Jon Favreau, because he's the reason, like literally he's the reason why I have a vegan deli in Providence.
Yeah. Shout out to John. I know you're listening somewhere in the
Yeah, he's out there. He's listening.
I think something else that I think is really cool, where it was kind of the marriage of like starting this, but also keeping it, to your roots with, like hardcore and, did you find veganism through Earth Crisis? Was that kind of the order?
That's exactly right. Yes.
Cool.
My mom was kind of like a hippie, for lack of a better terms, like when she was, before she had me, in the like mid 70s. So she knew it, she's vegetarian. She was actually vegan in the late 1970s, like right before I was born, which is crazy to think that like she was like, I was literally just eating tempeh and tofu. Like that's what vegan was. You would eat raw fruits, vegetables, and that's what you should be eating. You shouldn't be eating processed crap all the time. But so when I was like getting into hardcore and then got into like, oh, Earth Crisis is the straight edge thing. Oh, that's me. Like I don't do drugs and I don't drink. I was like, all right. So then slap that label on, right? I got the X's. And then I was like, the veganism, vegan. Oh, wait, that's mom talked about. I was like kind of like vegetarian at the time. Like I was like feeling it out. Like I would get like a PETA pamphlet at a show or whatever. But then like Earth Crisis legitimately was like the genesis of understanding veganism and like knowing more about it, and then doing the research and then going home and be like, yo, I like animals. Why the hell am I eating them? Like it like another click moment, right? Like I was like, and then just my mom saw how I was like trying to be vegetarian, and then I was like, you know what? Let's just try the vegan thing. And Earth Crisis was legit like that moment where it's like, okay, I learned about it. There's lyrics are about it, and then you just start like as much as you can in the mid 90s before even the internet. You get zines and pamphlets and lyrics from songs and stuff, and I was just like, I did it wrong the first few times. I was eating like salad sandwiches for a good like 2 years because like you just don't eat animals. So you read the ingredients. If there's animal in it, you don't. And there wasn't like Beyond Burgers and Impossible and all this stuff that you can get in the store today. So but shout out Earth Crisis, because they 100% are the reason why I know what veganism is. I know what animal rights are. I know the vibe. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were very I just want to thank them tremendously, because before I started the Born from Pain business, I reached out to the Earth Crisis Instagram. I didn't know who ran it, but it's Scott who runs the Earth Crisis Instagram. I reached out and said, hey, listen, I want to start this business. I want to name it this, and I want to, if possible, use the font, the green and the Earth Crisis font. And I was like, it's going to be seitan business. I don't know how far it's going to go. I don't know what, but I would love, because you guys were the reason why, I am, this way with veganism. And he was just like, more power to you. Like legit was like, we love this. More power to you. You have our blessing. Go for it. And, the fact that they were like, not even a thought, like it wasn't like, because, as I'm smart, like I don't want to like get into any trademark things or like any sort of like copyright infringement. I mean, it is punk and hardcore, but Earth Crisis are a legacy band, and their logo is very recognizable and stuff. So I,
Right.
smart to reach out and stuff. But they were like, he was just like, go for it. And I sent them a big care package like a year into it when I had all the stuff like kind of like going and I was comfortable with it, and they were thankful for it. So I just want to make sure that I thank Earth Crisis for their support, for their knowledge, for everything, for getting Born from Pain to where it is.
Yeah, and it is like, yeah, because a lot of bands will do like a vegan band will do like an Earth Crisis rip and not even maybe think twice about being like, but when you're doing something of the scale of starting a business and like using the typeface and the font, like I think I have to commend you for like, getting the blessing of the vegan straight edge gods themselves.
Seriously. Yeah, I went before the council and got down on my knee and presented my idea.
Yeah.
And they blessed me with like a tofu drumstick, like
yeah, but it is cool. It's funny. I've seen I can't remember, there was maybe it was on that clip or maybe it was another like vegan focused podcast clip, but they've been in my notifications a couple times, so shout out to you guys. I think I was like, I think of the bigger bands, I'm like, what is the spider web order of things to get to the Earth Crisis X Scoped Exposure podcast interview? And maybe it's also doing this with Rich unintentionally.
It might be, and it's a crossover. It's gonna get you there.
But yeah, I think you're totally right. It's like, I think it's different when a band is coming from the actual like hardcore world to be like, hey, I'm doing this thing that obviously I have influence, but like I just want to see if that was okay. Did you have a backup name if Earth Crisis was like respectful? You're like, no.
Nope. Let me give you a brief, like abridged version of my business plan in 2020. I had an idea. I'm starting a vegan business that was going to sell seitan and bread. I was going to name it after an Earth Crisis song. And that's what I did. I literally, like, that was my thought. And that's what, like, if they did, so basically a lot of the things I do, and I'm admitting this might be not the best idea, but I mean, it's transparency, right? A lot of the things I do, I don't have a backup plan. I have the idea and I will present it to whomever I have to, or I'll just do it. And then if I get to a point that's like a roadblock or a speed bump or whatever with that idea, whatever it is, I'll back up and I'll redo it, right? I'll like, oh, okay, that's not working, or that's not going to work, or you need to do this, that. So the Born from Pain thing was like, this is what I want to do. And I was like crossing my fingers when I sent that Instagram message. I should actually see if I have that initial. That would be really cool as a screenshot to be like, yo, I'm starting this business. But
yeah,
no, that was like,
through if you can.
Yeah. It was literally like no backup plan. It was COVID. We were all broke. We were all like, there was no like, there was no extra money or whatever at that time. Like everything was so new and so scary and so like I was in the service industry. I worked full time at a bar, brewery, and I'm straight edge guy works at a brewery is always like a funny haha moment, but I've worked there for so long. They're one of the reasons why I was able to start the business too, because I got my health department license, because they were the kitchen that I started working in. Like there was a lot of like moving pieces that I had to get together, and they were nice enough to let me be in their kitchen making my stuff. But yeah, man, it's just like I had no money. I had an idea, and I was like, let's do this. And it was like, it's a good time for me to clarify this, or just like get it out in the world. Is that like my business has started from whatever like excess cash I had in my pocket or on my desk. And that means like a couple $100. Like I said earlier, I don't come from any financial means or anything. Like I've always done stuff the most frugal way, the most modest way possible. I'll buy a pair of pants and wear them for 4 years straight, and those are the only pants I'll wear. You know what I mean? I'm like one of those guys. Like my toe of my vegan Sauconys right now, the toe is coming through my Saucony Jazzes, but I can't find them in my size right now, so I'm going to wear these things for another 4 years. So when I started my business, it was like I had the money for ingredients and the $300 you need to like register your business with the state and do it the legit way. And I was like, that's $300 for me. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money for a lot of people. But I was like, cross my fingers, got the blessing from Earth Crisis, registered the name, and that was like, I'm gonna fucking figure it out. Like, and then that's how it started. And so, and even to this day, I've sacrificed a lot of things personally, especially with like finances stuff. Like I was just saying, like I don't buy myself anything. If I do, it's a big deal, because a lot of them, all of the money that Born from Pain has ever made, just cycled right back into the business as it should. I've never, I haven't profited, I haven't taken a paycheck. I mean, it wasn't that kind of thing. But that is, again, if we just kind of circle back to the ethic, like that DIY ethic of just making the thing that you're passionate about happen and proliferate, like people learn about it. That's kind of the method that I've had to get to myself to this point, and then to be able to open the deli, which is just like step 2, which is amazing.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. So,
Yeah.
you kind of like hit the ground running with a Kickstarter for Providence Vegan Deli, which is in the abbreviation hardcore world, as far as like when you see things and your hardcore brain like fills in the blanks. When I saw PV Deli, I'm like, Power Violence Deli? No. Let's back it up, Spencer.
So Spencer, you're not the first. I've already
I'm
got.
not okay.
I've gotten
I'm
two
glad
messages.
I'm not the first.
Yeah, I've gotten 2 messages from friends like, "Yo, that literally what you just said." They said as well. So yeah.
I'm like if the shop was up and running, I would imagine like that Kidnapped tour that's happening right now to roll through. But yeah, like we were talking about the serendipity of talking about what the plan is as far as like in a certain amount of years to have a brick and mortar kind of business. But when was it like an actual like, oh shit, like it's time that I can do this?
Okay, so the legacy vegan business here in Providence is called Like No Other. They are an ice cream shop and sort of a little bit of a bakery too. They do like savory baked goods. They've been in Providence as like a food truck and then a brick and mortar for like, I think they're going on like 15 years as a business. And I've known about them ever since I've lived up here. I've become friends with them. They are amazing people. Karen, who runs Like No Other, is like one of the nicest human beings I've ever met. And she's huge on community, right? As we all should be. We want to see each other win. We don't want to compete with each other, especially in the vegan business world, right? We want to lift each other up. So Karen has supported Born from Pain from day one. She's carried my products in her store to get me exposure. Like she'd sell my stuff retail and stuff. She'd post stuff on Instagram, whatever it took to just like let people know about what I was doing. And then about 6 to 8 months ago, there was an opportunity that Like No Other had to buy a building and renovate it in such a manner that Like No Other would exist in it. And she reached out. She's like, listen, if I do this, would you want to open your own space within our space? And I was like, like I said earlier, I'll say yes and figure it out later. So that's what I did. I was like, yes, absolutely. Cause like I was at a point with Born from Pain where I've been a business for over 3.5 years now. I've been successful at farmers markets. I've been successful at these big vegan events that I do. I've online sales where people all over the country will order from me. So I was like, yes, absolutely. With the support from Like No Other, it couldn't fail. However, that situation fell apart because the owner of the building that Karen got an agreement with, it fell apart. I won't get into details. It fell apart, and that idea was curbed. We were both devastated because it was like going to happen, then it wasn't going to happen. So we're like, oh, all right. So I'm the kind of guy I was like, I don't get excited until after the good thing happens. Like I'm kind of one of those. I'm like, I won't, I've been.
You're like, whoa, that actually was sick. Yeah.
So a few months go by, and the craziness of the universe again. They, Like No Other's brick and mortar location, the owner of that building hit them with a, hey, you got to be out in 60 days, like out of nowhere.
Oh shit!
Brick and mortar location for over 8 years, and they thought they had a long-term lease. They had a great relationship. They got booted. They got hit with the 60-day, hey, we're selling the building. I'm really sorry. We have to let you know that, you won't be, re-signing your lease or whatever. So again, this came out of nowhere. So she's like, oh crap. So they've been a legacy business. They're well known. People frequent this place. They're a great business. As we all know, that rent prices for everything are insane across the entire planet, right? It's like it's almost ridiculous to think to like, oh yeah, let's look for a brand new space after paying X amount of dollars this, the past 8 years. But she had to because they exist and this is their living. Like no other is like her, her living. So she's
Yeah.
looking around and she finds a place, but it's like 3 times as much. She reaches out to me and she's like, "Hey, I found a place. Same question as last time. If I sign a lease here, do you want to?" And I was like, "I'll figure it out. Let's do it." So she signed the lease. She got the place, and the place is gigantic. It's an amazing location, but again, the rent is like insane from what they were paying. And I had everything in line as far as like the business side of it. Like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to open a vegan deli because I'm from New York. The deli is a thing that I grew up going to, knowing it's a cultural thing in New York. The deli is just like a very specific thing. It's ingrained in me as a New Yorker. A vegan deli is like such a sick idea. Like when I used to live in Oakland, like the Butcher's Son was like a spot that I had saw that did the vegan deli concept like very early on. Like when I worked at Timeless, they were very small and they would like do like meals at holiday time, and then they like you walk in, they have deli slicers and cheese. And I was like, yo, this is sick. Always in the back of my head. So that was the concept. However, it's expensive. And like I was just telling you, the money that I have, it all like every year at the end when I do my finances for Born from Pain, it's at zero. Like there's like it's a loss, like I'm able to pay my bills. So the big thing, I was like, all right, I know I have friends, I know I have support, I know I have a community. I'll say yes to this next step of a brick and mortar and putting money towards it, but I am not gonna give money to a bank. I don't want to go for a bank loan. That's like furthest thing from my mind. I'm not gonna ask my mom for money because I just don't want to do that. I'm like, I think the only way to do this, I'm gonna start a Kickstarter, and I'm gonna cross my fingers and hope that the goal that I set, I'll hit it in the 30 days time that I put it up for. The goal was $11,500 to kind of like cover the 10% fees that Kickstarter takes. So I was like, $10,000. If I get $10,000, I'll be able to do this. And in 4 days' time, the $11,500 was blown out of the water, and it's still going until next week. That we're up to almost $18,000 raised on my Kickstarter, and I am like, every day I look at it and I have to like, I'm like literally speechless. Can't even imagine that there's that much support out there for me and my concept and what I'm about to do with my deli.
Yeah, it's truly like very special to see, because I think I saw the initial announcement. I'm like, damn, that's really awesome that Rich is doing that. And then it was like, blah, blah, blah in my own world and life. And then it's like, oh, we hit the goal. And I'm like, wait, wasn't this posted like 2 days ago?
Yeah, man. Yeah, right. It was not. I was so I put the goal to explore I put the goal to whatever end on March 29th, because that's the first day of tour for EDICT, our 2-week tour. I wanted to like I wanted to be disappointed. Like, this is how I thought. I wanted to be disappointed going into something that I know would take my mind off of not reaching the goal. That's how my brain works. Okay. I was like, if we don't hit the goal on the first day of tour,
at least I can be excited about playing shows.
At least I can riff and mosh and, so that's how my brain works. And then as you just said, as we said, yeah, 4 days into it, it smashed the goal. And every day still from that day, there's been like people are still contributing. And
now you have to be happy when you're going on.
I know, right?
How disappointing.
Good mood, yeah. Dude, I for some reason I am like the bad mood guy in the van for some reason. I don't know how I got to that role as like, in being in a band, everybody's like the whatever guy. Like, oh, he drives, he sleeps, he smokes weed, whatever. Like I'm like the like grumpy guy for some reason. I don't know what it is, but yeah, you're right. So I have to be happy, and it's like dude, I every time somebody asks me, and especially last night when I saw a lot of people at one time, like at the show last night, and a lot of those people supported the Kickstarter and support me, and like over and over again, and it was like they're like, congratulations, and I'm like, I feel bad because I don't even know what to even still say, because I'm so thankful and blown away at this like support system from friends, family, and strangers, especially. Like there's so many people in the community that are just like, yo, we trust you, we back you, we support you, and we have faith that you're going to be providing us with like an amazing spot. And that's what I'm going to do. And I mean, you probably saw also the thing about touring bands and stuff that I'm going to implement with the Deli. Free food.
No, I didn't see that. Tell me
You
about
didn't
that.
see that? Oh, so this is
No.
really good. So being in touring bands all my life, right? Whether it be working for them or being in them, and being vegan, when you get to a city, a foreign city, you're like, where's the vegan spot, right? You look up, you Google, whatever, where's the vegan spot? Where's the good spot? You don't want to eat Taco Bell. You want to find the good spot. I've been in that position so many times, and you get to realize that these small vegan businesses really appreciate when a bunch of strangers with tattoos and black clothes come in and buy a whole bunch of stuff and are so thankful, and they sit and eat it and like, thanks, and you're like, you see that business was like, this is awesome. They came to see us. They could have went anywhere else, but they sought us out. They came here. I've been in that position. I've been the customer, right? And I can see that like, that's what small businesses rely on, is these niche little subcultures to like keep them afloat and pass the word around. So what I'm doing with my vegan deli is I'm going to offer a free sandwich to each member of a touring band who stop in. So basically, if you come to Providence and you're on tour, come to the deli and just prove that you're on tour. Show me a flyer, show me an Instagram post, whatever, and be like, yo, we're on tour, and I'm gonna feed the whole band for free, like on the house, because I've been in that position so many times where like I've needed food, I've needed money, I've needed a space to sit down and just feel comfortable for a little while with some internet. You know what I mean?
Right.
So my spot, I've been, so the experience that I've garnered over my entire life has led me to like put not just like a deli concept that serves food. Like it's not just about like, I hand you a vegan meal and you hand me some money and we move on. That's not what I'm about. I want like to try to give back to all of these different experiences that I've had in my life. And the biggest one has been the touring musician, the touring band that, this, like everybody, a lot of people listen, you've stopped at a gas station at 2 a.m. and found the vegan chips, and that was your meal for the day. And you're driving 8 hours from these two cities, and you don't know anything. You only have 5 minutes to spare. Now, I don't want people to experience that. If they're, coming from New York, going up to Maine, whatever, pop in, just show me you're on tour, and I will feed you. And it doesn't have to be a vegan thing. And that's a big important thing for me. It's not a vegan thing. It's a person thing. It's a humanitarian thing. It's a appreciation for the sacrifice that touring bands make for getting in a van, being away from home, sacrificing money, sacrificing sleep, sacrificing meals. Just come hit me up. Like, I know, I get it. So come in, I'll feed you. You can sit down and you can be in a comfortable environment. It's not weird. It's not awkward. Please take advantage of it. So that's, obviously the deli's not open yet. We're looking for a mid-May, June opening date. Just so, people listening are wondering. So we're not just open yet. So don't roll up and, like, oh,
where's my sandwich?
Yeah. Where's my sandwich? But yeah, so that's the concept. It's more than just like me opening yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful, man. Like, and yeah, I think it's like, it's like, I really wish that there was more. I know that there are people within the scene that are like web developers, and they can like build things on phones and on a technical thing. And it's like, I really think there needs to be like a GPS version of the hardcore map, but it's like the only points are venues, coffee shops, and vegan spots.
Yes, man.
And maybe like, like we could build it. I'll like just speed run build this out, but venues, coffee spots, vegan spots, 24-hour gas stations, homie. We can't really have map points for like personal addresses for like people who are cool with you sleeping on the floor.
Yeah.
But something to that effect. Yeah. I just think that would go such a long way. But in the meantime of whoever is feeling inspired and wants to build that off of listening to this podcast, I think it is very cool to kind of like have that, not even something for hardcore, but just for even just like people in bands to like come, and then there's something that's more than just like, oh, we like ate and this food was dope, but like we
Right.
didn't get to meet the person behind it and know their story and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's just, I don't know, even when I have a 5-minute conversation for a spot that's like a little newer. There's a place. My boss is vegan, and he recommended this new donut shop in the neighborhood that I, since moving back to Alberta, am living in. And when I put it on Google Maps, it would give me like, it would show me where it is, and there's a bunch of new businesses that have opened up there, but like none of them are that. So I was like, where is this donut shop? And uh in just next to that is a like a liquor store. So I was picking up a bottle of wine for me and my wife, and then I was like, oh, there's this tiny little corner of where the buildings meet, and there's a door there, and it's like new donut shop. So I was like, oh, I need to go. So I like was walking up, like, oh, the lights are like off, I think it might be closed, but I saw someone in there, and she like waved at me, and I like go to open the, it was like all the things going in my mind of like, oh no, now I'm that guy to be like, are you guys open? Do you have any more donuts? But she was like, oh yeah, we closed at 7. And I looked at the time, it's like 7:35. I'm like, fuck. It's like, oh, I have a ton of donuts if you still want some. And
Hell yeah.
we like struck up a conversation and like and that to me is like way more cool and interesting. Like, we talked about, because they're a little bit newer, like not as many people are or just even just like locationally that they have and I feel like this is a little common with like when you do like baked goods, like there's always going to be like overflow or just like stuff that gets left for the end of the day. So they're an Edmonton based company, and what the main place does up there is like they take all that and donate it to like shelters and things like that. So they're trying to find that for something in Calgary. And to me, that's like, I will back that business to my dying breath versus like a Dunkin's or something like that, where it is just so like just the equation. I want food, I give you money, you give it to me, and that's our relationship.
Yeah, it's so
and to like just to be as, I guess, fair as possible, like even the people that are running like a franchisee, like I feel like there is some humanitarian aspects of that, but I feel like it's shrouded by a lot of the capitalistic.
definitely is.
Just like, so it's like they have good intentions, but at the same time, it all just kind of stems for money, which is not it's not even there. I don't even sniff a whiff of that when it comes to what you're doing.
Yeah, it's definitely just like I just need to feel like I'm not in this for myself, because I'm like just for myself. Let me clarify. Like it's for everyone. Like food is for everyone, right? Like food is something that everyone needs and wants. Vegan food, especially affordable vegan food. And I hammer this part home. My business is going to very, very much focus on the fact that I want to make it as affordable as possible in today's food climate. I mean, things are expensive. Ingredient, especially like my main ingredients, the prices have gone up 100% since I started Born from Pain. Like Vital Wheat gluten went from $50 for a 25-pound bag to $100 for a 25-pound bag. Just literally, just like completely doubled. Mm-hmm. But with the fact that I'm going to be making a lot of stuff in house, I'm going to be doing a lot of stuff myself. I'm going to be the major part, and my paycheck is inexistent. The fact that passing on a product that's going to be affordable, that's what's going to be existent. And my number one thing is that I want people to come in. I'm going to be foot-long sandwiches that are stuffed with all the seitan and vegan cheeses and veggies and stuff. And you're going to spend $11 or $12 and you're going to have like a meal and a half or 2 meals. And you're going to be like, I just spent less here than I would, at some gross fast food joint like McDonald's or whatever. You know what I mean? Like I want that to become a very important fact. Like I have always hated, and I'm sure a lot of people have been, is you pay 50 cents extra for oat milk or almond milk or soy milk or whatever it was, wherever you went. You pay more money to take the cheese off of something at Taco Bell. Like what? Like
you pay money to take cheese off?
So Dude, I spent $17 on 4 bean burritos the other night at Taco Bell, and I got to the window. I live dangerously close to a Taco Bell. It's literally like 1 second away from my house. So I was like coming home from work. I'm like, fresco bean burritos, add potatoes.
Mm-hmm. The classic vegan
Classic,
Taco Bell
right?
order. Yeah.
And she says the total at the thing. I'm like, oh, that's weird. That seems like a lot. But I was like not paying attention. I didn't look. They charge for fresco now. Like they didn't charge for fresco. This was like the big thing. If you make a something fresco style, they don't charge for it. It wasn't an upcharge. Well,
right.
Taco Bell, you lost me, because fresco is now an extra like $1 per item. And it made my whole order. And because potatoes are like 75 cents or $1 or something a piece to put on there, my $2 bean burritos, they turned into like $4 bean burritos because of this, like, hey, I want to take,
because you're doing less work in prep.
Yeah. So anyway, I was like, this is crazy. I looked at her. I was like, can you just tell me what I ordered? And she's like, yeah, fresco with potato. I'm like, isn't fresco? And she's like, no, fresco is like an additional whatever, and potatoes. And I was like, I can't eat here ever. This is like the sticker shock that we all are experiencing everywhere, right? Like, it's like anywhere you go that you trusted or like relied on, or just like, it was just like a muscle memory thing where like you went to this specific spot because that one thing was like not an upcharge or it wasn't extra. You go there. That's what Taco Bell is for vegans, right? You just,
right. Yeah.
This is our late night spot. Not anymore, because they start charging for that. So that's a big bummer. And
man,
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's I don't know if you know this, but like Taco Bell Canada versus America are two totally different entities.
I have
Taco
heard
Bell,
this, yes.
Canadian Taco Bell is like it to call it any form of like reliable fast food is like way too much grace. It is like the pricing structure is just so crazy. Like, and this is even before the fact that like everything's up right now.
Yeah.
But like, even when I would order something like, you know, a couple like bean burritos or whatever, it would be like, what is, it's like soulless. It's like, it's really hard to find the words, but it's like, anytime I'm in the States for shows or anything like that, like going to Taco Bell is more of like a treat.
Yeah.
But now I'm just like very like, fuck Taco Bell. Like, I'm sorry that might feel triggering to some people listening to this, but like based off the fact that they're charging to take off ingredients is just showing that they're like buying into this whole just giant capitalistic, just like,
yeah, man.
Just like, what can we get away with? Like, I'm sure you saw all the shit with like Wendy's doing like surcharging for like, I'm like, ridiculous. Just shoot me in the face. Instead of giving me
I think fries. I don't know if you being in Canada, it might be different for you guys with Taco Bell, but for me, as somebody, like, Taco Bell was like the spot, has always been ever since I was like a teenager, to get whatever you like, vegetarian or vegan food, like. And Taco Bell always seemed like this, for ignorance's sake, it seemed like it was an independently owned and operated thing. Like, Taco Bell just seemed like it was Taco Bell. It wasn't like it was like McDonald's, where it's like, you know, there's this big corporate umbrella over McDonald's. But for some reason, for me, this is just me, Taco Bell had always been like, oh, it's Taco Bell. It's just this like cute little fucking taco thing, the fast food. Then, like, as I got older, I realized that fucking Pepsi owns Taco Bell. Like, this giant, massive corporation owns Taco Bell. And I don't know if that happened like between the mid 90s and where I am now. However, when you realize that a lot or all of these fast food chains are owned by mega corporations, like, it hits home. You're like, oh, all right, that's why stuff costs what it costs. Like, Taco Bell isn't like a mom and pop, you know, taco place. It's just like a franchise. Like, what the fuck was I thinking as a teenager? Like, this is like the ignorance, you know, when you don't understand capitalism.
It says 1978 PepsiCo purchased 868 Taco Bell restaurants for 125 million.
Did that happen in July of 78? Because that's when I was born. So maybe I was the harbinger.
Yeah, you're just like, just missed it. Sorry, I was just coming into the world, literally.
But yeah, man, just the concept of my food shops and my businesses and stuff. I want to just give back. I want people to find value. Also, this is important to note. So the reward system on Kickstarter, for those who aren't familiar with Kickstarter, you can offer rewards at different monetary tiers. Like if you donate $10, you get this thing. If you donate $100, you get this thing. So my tiers were like, if you $10 or more, you get your name up on the. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a wall of thanks, is what I'm calling it, and I'm going to put everybody's name who's contributed to the Kickstarter on that wall, and it's going to say we helped build Providence Vegan Deli. And it's going to be everybody's name who's comfortable with having their name on public display. So $10 or more, that's your reward. Then $50 or more, I'm doing a limited T-shirt. $100 or more, these were the cool ones. $100 or more, you get a T-shirt, and then you get one free sandwich a month for an entire year. So you can come in and you have your little special card. I'm gonna have people's names on them. They're like, all right, I want my sandwich for the month. So you get basically you're prepaying for your sandwiches for an entire year. But I think that's cool. $500 tier was like a free sandwich a week for an entire year. And then the crazy one that I didn't think anybody was going
I'm looking at it right now.
So I offered only five of these, and it was you name a sandwich after yourself, or you can just name a custom sandwich. You come up with the ingredients, you design the sandwich yourself, and then it goes on the Providence Vegan Deli menu for perpetuity. So basically for $1,000, that's the donation, you get to design and name a sandwich to go on my menu. And I was like,
when you put that up, were you like, no one's gonna do this?
100%. I was like, this is so funny, and I'm gonna put it at a monetary tier where personally that's like completely out of range. I was like, nobody is gonna spring for this. We have,
I mean, 5 to 1,000 is not the biggest jump, but it is $1,000 just to give a really big pat on the back for Rich is a lot of money. But four or five,
four people, and you can see who buy or not buy, who contributes to these tiers. Like you can look at your report and see like names and stuff. And the fact, like, I'm not going to share any of that information, but I know who they are, and it means so much that these particular people who I know who have been there from the beginning went that far to be like, yo, this is this thing, I want to support him with this thing and also get something cool back by designing. Say, I was like, wanted to cry when I saw a couple of these people's names come through. I was like, this is amazing. And I keep everybody anonymous. I don't want to like blow anybody's spot up or whatever. But it's like when I put that reward there, that was like, to me, I was giggling. I was like, nobody's gonna do this. And I was like, you can design. and in addition to like, getting your sandwich designed and stuff, you work with me. We put it on the menu. In addition to that, everybody gets a free sandwich every week for a year and a T-shirt and your name on the wall. So, those were the tiers. And I was like, what? All right, here we go. This is what we're doing. And that's where that's how we've ended up being as successful. And I can't believe it's still going.
I love how the top 3 tiers. So the bronze medal, if we'll go with this setup, is 1 free sandwich a month for a year, 73 backers. So it's like, okay, for $100, I'm prepaying for sandwiches, like we were saying. Free sandwich every week for a year, which is 500, only has 1 backer, but then the 1,000-person spot has 4. Do you have any like couple names could you disclose one of the 4 potential names for these more custom sandwiches, or do you want to keep that under wraps?
Well,
or is it like still in development? You're like,
no, like it's cool. Let's just shout out Jay from Connecticut. Let's just shout out Jay from Connecticut, old friend of mine. Prior to like my customers, like people who have been supporting me, like he's a hardcore dude. Like, he's homie, like legit homie who when his name came through, like I was like, no fuck, are you kidding me? Like I would have expected maybe like a message like, yo, dude, stoked for you. Like, no, like $10 contribution and like a message. Like, that's how humble I want to keep. That's how I feel. I don't, it like feels weird when people I know support me. I don't know what's wrong with my brain sometimes. Like when people are like, yo, you're doing a good thing. Love you. I'm like, are you sure? Like, are you? But no, but when I saw him, his name come through. I was like, this is amazing. So shout out, Jay. You
Mhm.
are you're a homie, a true homie.
Yeah. Does Jay have a like a sandwich concept in mind?
Not yet. So what happened was, so for all of these things, I do have like a timeline of things, so people know what to expect. But once everything ends, on the 29th, then I'm gonna reach out and then kind of like get that information after everything's settled
Mhm.
and really rolling.
That's so cool to see. Like, Rich, I love this whole thing. Hence why I wanted to, you know, have you on the podcast. And if I had $1,000 to spare, and maybe if I was a single man,
Yeah,
and my wife would be like, "What do you mean you're naming a custom sandwich
yeah,
off
yeah, yeah.
of for your friend in
I
Rhode
appreciate that.
Island?"
Man,
Um,
I had a point to telling you the Kickstarter rewards levels. This was going back. I just wanted to make sure I
yeah.
covered this. Some people who contributed the $100 or more, whatever, like get the free sandwiches every month or whatever. I wanted to clarify because some of those people aren't from Providence. They're just people who wanted to contribute $100 towards the
Oh,
thing,
okay.
and they're not going to be able to use their rewards. So this was going back to affordability and accessibility to food. Those people are donating their free sandwich a month to the deli, like to me. Like they've personally reached out and have said, and I've clarified too on some Instagram posts, if you can't use your food reward, I will happily keep a bank of free food. And if somebody, anybody, an organization, a human, whatever it is, if you need a sandwich that day, I'm going to have like a bank of free sandwiches that these people have provided that you can come in and be like,
Wow.
oh, I just, can I get one? And of course, because there's so many generous people out there. I
Yeah,
don't want to see anything.
someone in California already purchased your sandwich for you, bro.
Yeah,
You got
yeah,
it.
exactly. Look, literally, like, so I have a whole bunch of generous people who've been like, "Yo, just you know what, just give my reward to whoever needs it." And so I just wanted to clarify that because,
That's really
yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah, that's really wicked. And I'm sure like if someone is like, "Hey, I purchased the one free sandwich for a month for a year, but I'm visiting for the weekend." I'm sure it's like, "Yeah, of
yeah,
course."
yeah, absolutely, yeah,
That's super sick.
yeah, man,
So I guess like the last couple of few questions that I
yeah,
had, you know, once the actual space, you know, when those details like start to roll out and you know it's like okay we're open for business, like I guess has Born from Pain largely just been like you did you like have you added like people in the mix as far as like helping you out or even like actual employees, or is this going to be like the full jump into like me having to be the boss and then having to hire people that run the store when I can't be there? Like how is that process going and how are you feeling about like that new level when it comes to running this whole thing?
yeah, man. It is going to be that next step of like having to be the boss, having to hire people and play that role. Born from Pain has been just me the past 3.5 years. I have had, friends, obviously. I don't want to say that I haven't had help. But the majority, the 99% of the last 3.5 years has been me doing everything, recipes, making everything, doing the markets, doing the special events, deliveries, finances, all the stuff, getting in trouble with the state because I didn't pay taxes, like all the things that I didn't know when I started this business, thinking that like, oh, running a small business is going to be super easy. And then like, it's not. Like like there's things that I didn't know, and there's nowhere that tells you these things. They make it really easy to start a business, but they make it also really easy to mess up a lot of things. I'll tell you that much,
Hmm.
especially like you gotta, and again, going back to what I said earlier, like, oh, I'll get into it and I'll figure it out later. Things you don't want to figure out later are like taxes and like owing your state money. That's one of the things I got. I just was misinformed about a certain thing every year that I was supposed to file. And then here I am almost 4 years later, and I have to like go back and do all this stuff. So here's a tip. If you're starting a small business, just verify the things that the state wants from you every year and make sure you do them. So this
Hmm.
time around, Born from Pain is going to be dissolved. I actually, with this whole realization of this like awkwardness with the state, I'm dissolving Born from Pain as a business. It will no longer exist at the end of April because I have already started Providence Vegan Deli as its own entity. So it's starting from
Okay.
zero. So all the lessons that I learned in the last 3.5 years, I'm like, all right, I'm not going to fuck that one up now. And I'm going to pay this one now. So I know what to do. But with that, yeah, man, I'm going to have to hire employees, and that's super awesome for me to be able to give back jobs. Like, I'm going to pay a living wage. I know the trials and tribulations of people trying to find work and trying to find a wage that's going to like be able to pay their rent or their car payment or whatever it is. Like, it's just, it's hard to live right now. So if my business can support a couple employees that they'll make some money, great. And it's going to be the kind of thing that's like, I'm going to do all of the stuff that I have been doing, hire a couple people to be like, front of house people, just employees. And I'm going to be able to spend a lot more time in the kitchen, like revising, recipes, coming up with new stuff. That's what I'm really excited for, is the amount of time that I'll be able to have if I have a couple employees running the place for me, because that was one of the things that I lacked the last 3.5 years, because I was doing everything in addition to having like my other life, like having to go to work and having to pay my bills and having to do all that stuff. But now the opportunity is here that I will hire some people, and it's going to be like a legitimate, like, I know we use the terminology like boss as like, I know it's not supposed to have a negative connotation or anything. Like, it's just the word we use as a person in charge. My biggest thing, and what's really important to me, is just like, I'm going to just be an employee just like everybody else. I'm your coworker. I've been in so many toxic work environments. I've been in so many different kinds of jobs where I know what not to do. I know what things you expect from an employee. I know what things employees expect from you. And a big thing of that is like respect and time, and just like having a good work environment is super important to me. And I just can't wait to provide that, man. It's like so exciting, because the one thing I'm confident with in life is knowing that the experiences that I've had being in either bands or work experiences, anything I do right now until the day I'm gone is going to be the right thing, because I know what the wrong things are. And all of those experiences are like cocked, ready, loaded. And I'm like, all right, so if I do this, that's going to win. If I do that, that's going to win. I'm going to provide this to my employees and they're going to be happy. I'm going to write this riff, they're going to mosh. You know what I mean? Like, like it all translates. And, and I'm very excited to be the person in charge that runs the business, and including other people on a journey is really important for me. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited to see you move into that, like, not only into the space and the establishment, but into that, like, role, and getting to see it. And honestly, like, I hope that, because we've only interacted, this way through a screen, but I'm really hoping that one day I can be rolling through and be like,
I hope so.
Hit me with a Sandy. Yeah, fuck Taco Bell. I need a vegan sandwich right now.
Yeah.
This is more just because I have my own. If I was to ever have a brick and mortar space, like for anything, and that could be a coffee shop or whatever, like, my brain's just all over the place of the different possibilities. But the one thing that, at least for me, that I always like selfishly would like, because just doesn't matter if you got into hardcore like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or even 20 years ago, like all ages spaces are like a very tough thing to mix. And I think the other thing with hardcore too is like you can see hardcore pop up in unconventional spaces. I don't know if you're like nervous to open the floodgates of like, well, if we do a show at the Deli, then it's going to be like the expectation that we got to do it all the time. But like, would or could that ever happen?
You're not the first person to ask. That was probably one of the like first.
Is that the most hardcore? Can we do a show here?
Dude, literally, and I expected it, but I didn't expect to happen so quick. When a couple people like shot me messages like, "Yo, dude, congrats on the spot. Yo, can we have a show there?" But like, so
like, let me get off the ground running, and then maybe we'll talk about it.
So I really, really like, I love that sentiment, and I'm like, I really wish that could be a thing, but the fact that like I'm sharing the space with another business, and the way it's going to be laid out, unfortunately, like if it happens, it would probably be a very well organized, like one-off thing, like you're saying, but like knowing that I'm sharing the space with a completely other business and how the thing's going to be laid out, probably not likely, but I don't ever want to say never, but it's definitely not going to be something that I can like think about in the near future. I really wish though, because like that's exactly like what I'm talking about here, right? The music and the food and all these things that have all this crossover. I really wish that I could provide something like that, but I can't. And like the space that we played last night, speaking of like all ages shows and stuff, AS 220 in Providence is like an independently run art space. AS is Art Space 220. It's been in Providence for like for decades. It's like the very well known independently run collective. They have all kinds of shows, art shows, whatever. And it's an all ages spot. And there was a show there a couple nights ago that has, crazily enough, like has developed some like viral discourse about all ages shows. And like it just happened within the last couple days. And then we had a show. It was like probably earlier this week. And then we had a show there at the end of the week. So there's been like this petition to like ban all ages shows at AS 220 because the some people don't like that the younger kids don't know how to mosh or don't know how to handle,
what?
Yeah, dude. And I'm not embellishing, and I'm not trying, like, this is like a very, very strange thing. And it's like, yo, shut the fuck up. Like, let the people do what you do when you come to a punk or hardcore show. I lovingly refer to younger generation as like the young weirdos, because that's what we all were, right? We didn't fucking know what was going on. You brave the embarrassment of showing up to a venue that maybe you haven't been to before, don't know who to pay, and you figure, I give you the money. Okay, cool. You walk into a room of like 100 strangers that are all there to see music, and then the band starts. You might know that, not know that band, and then everyone starts moshing because they're like the local superheroes, right? And everybody starts going crazy, and you're like, oh, what do I do? Like, you don't know how to socially interact at a show. But lately, those kids are like the backbone of like the fun that is punk and hardcore. They come to shows, and we see it a lot in Providence, and it's a scene. It's a fucking scene. It's the new generation of scene. You have to like recognize that my generation, we're getting older, and then there's a generation of 18, 19, 20-year-old kids coming to shows. Like, that's the reality, and that's changed. You're not wearing camo shorts and Minor Threat shirts. You're wearing like, and this is an example from last night, like corpse paint and like a giraffe onesie. Like, that's somebody who was in the crowd, and they were freaking out for every single band, having a blast. And like, you see that kind of person more and more, and you see, it's the reality. That's who's coming to shows. And to say, let's not have those people at shows is like the biggest like slap in the face ever to the entire like idea of punk and hardcore. Like, those kids are going to start bands. Those kids are going to start zines. Those kids are going to take pictures. That's how this stuff keeps going. So what that they mosh weird? So what that they complain that they got punched in the nose and they hurt themselves? I mean, these things happen, right? There is, all right, I don't want to fucking go on a tangent.
No, you're like, I feel like you're saying what a lot of people listening to this podcast would be thinking, off of the sentiment of, what do you mean you're going to make it like, what do you mean you're an advocate for 18 plus? Because like, hardcore is a youth centric genre, and like, like I'm 31, and I'm just excited, if not the most excited I've been about hardcore. But I'm also trying to be self-aware of like, my lifestyle and the things that I need to worry about is so vastly different to someone who's like 17 years old and can just do whatever and then again, it's like, even the gap between you and I is then some, but like, there's still an aspect of like finding the time to play in bands and to make it happen. But like, even when it's like, hey, maybe I can't go to every show, but like the person who's like 15 and has all their friends in high school that's just like so excited because they found Scowl on TikTok and they want to go and like check it out. Like, that's how that shit happens. And like, I've seen it, especially Calgary has a very young scene where it's like, I would see the kids who are like a little like, for lack of a better term, like a buzzkill for like mosh ethics. But like show over show, I'm like, oh, they know how to two-step now. That's cool. And then like the next show, it's like, oh, you're like you really know how to like, dance to these bands
Yeah.
now. And then it's like people just don't like, it's easier for them to just jump to a conclusion off of like you're lame or your shit is whack, and then
Mhm.
that's how it's fitting in my brain versus like I'm going to give you empathy and like play the long game of like trying to be a good influence to you so that
Yeah.
you can like, you know, be the me when I was 18
Dude,
or 17.
absolutely. Yeah.
Like
Like I was the weird, like in high school, like I remember like wearing like a hooded sweatshirt with a tie like over the hood, like a tie, and like the weird like a weird hat, like a like some
the hats that you would like purposely like fold upwards
yeah,
as high as possible.
exactly, right? Like I was a
No
weird
difference to shit happening right now.
I was a weirdo. We were all weirdo. Like that's the whole fucking point, right? It's what the point is, like that's where we go to be accepted. I mean, this stuff, I mean, you hear people talk about this stuff, and it is very like that's the point. And like I was the weirdo when I see these kids, younger kids that are like what you just said, they're two-stepping to my music, like, and there's like the giraffe onesie fucking going nuts, and I'm like, yes, like absolutely, like I don't yeah, well, I do want to see people moshing, and I do want to see the guy in the camo shorts and the Hatebreed shirt going nuts because caveman brain, caveman riffs, like that's the whole point. But also, if the juxtaposition of what I'm doing is catering to Hatebreed guy and giraffe onesie, I think like my job as a musician and somebody in the punk and hardcore scene is like we did it. Like those people in that room at the same time enjoying my band in their unique ways, that's the whole point. We've brought everybody together. Everybody's doing their own thing. Like I didn't know how to mosh when I first went to shows. I would literally just do a little freak out. Like you just like kind of push somebody next to you and just kind of wiggle around. And then like you keep going to shows. Oh, there's actual moves and this, that, the other thing. Sure. But like give these people some credit, like give them some respect. Like younger kids have to learn it just like you did. You know, you didn't pop out of
Right.
the womb as fucking Ian MacKaye. You're like, you were the weirdo at one point. Okay.
Right.
So let's give the younger generation a spot to be themselves and they'll grow into it. And I do understand the other side of it where there's like a lot more social media is the new, like the thing that has really changed punk and hardcore, like the availability of like information, show videos, drama, like all of that stuff, right?
The good,
But
bad, and the ugly.
exactly, yeah. So I mean, yeah, somebody gets hit at a show and they don't understand that that's like a risk you take when you go to a punk and hardcore show. Then they get on whatever platform they choose and like, oh my god, this band played and I got hit and they didn't care. Well, okay, you got it. It's like they didn't know that this was an environment that's like that. Like maybe it was their first show and they went and they accidentally got, like this happens. I had my nose broken. I got my eyebrow punched open in a mosh pit and I was like what's going on? But like I registered it as like, okay, all right, this is part of it. Like I gotta fix myself up, but like this is what the environment is, right? I understand that there's concern of like violence and like it's like, I mean, honestly, dude, like I see fucking the mosh styles nowadays, a lot of the crowd killing stuff and a lot of like the hyper aggressive things that happen. And I'm like, that's above my pay grade. Like, sure, I was in a band called Bury Your Dead a couple times, and sure, I write riffs that like incite this feeling. But like, I'm like, yeah, like, can we just turn it down a little bit? Like, but anyway, I'm not yucking anybody's gum. You know what I mean? Like, but
we could go on forever,
exactly.
but there is an aspect of reading the room for sure.
Mhm.
Like if everyone's on Bury Your Dead, camo shorts, hate breed, like mosh worship, then like, and there's like have at it. But if it is like a show that you're like, maybe my 100% is more like 65 tonight.
Yeah, that's just
or like
read the room.
Maybe just important. The one riff that I really like of this band. Like
yeah,
it's a whole can of worms, but I think the big sentiment here is like if we just fully obliterate the opportunity for people to even like engage with stuff and discover it. Like I had a conversation about this with a past friend, and we agreed that it's like we live in a day now that if we exclude these people, they're just going to find something else to do. Sure. They're going to get on the internet and like see, oh, like even staying in the vicinity of like music, it's like, oh, they'll go to like a rave show, or they'll go to some like, all ages thing that, is somewhere off the beaten path of like alternative music. Or they'll get into that. And like, to me, it's not about like, oh, we have to like create the opportunities to like corrupt these people to play breakdowns. But it's like, it is an aspect of like people that feel outcasted and feel different. And then at least for me, when I was discovering this, like I actually felt like I found my people and people that I resonated with. And, I've made like some of the longest of relationships with people, and I've made relationships with people just because of our common interests. Like I don't need to meet Rich from the other side of the America to feel like he's a friend of mine, because like we bonded over this and vegan shit and all this other shit. So like, I think that's really, really cool that I would think for someone who's like even subtly interested in like hardcore, for me, it is a music genre, but it is largely more like community and like finding like how you can experience and like build up things within that, and then obviously taking that out and doing other cool shit in your life. Because then people are like, what's your what, like what's your leading edge? It's like, oh yeah, I've booked tours, I've done all this shit. So yeah, it's such a, again, we could go on about it forever, but if you're an advocate for non all ages hardcore shows, like you can kiss my ass, like fuck off.
Amen.
Rich, this has been a really fun conversation. Just like looking at the time, realizing
dude, I know
like pretty much
I'm
at 2
so
hours.
sorry. I am such a rambler, but I'm glad we were able to do this. If you ever want to chat again, I'm all for it, and I'll be a little bit more focused next time. I enjoy talking.
No, I feel like we've hit on like pretty much all the main points that I wanted to. The very last question I ask every single guest before we start to wrap up is a favorite mosh related story that you would like to share. So that could be, like we were saying, good, bad, or ugly. Could be, EDICT related or not. Happened to you, or you just saw it at a show.
Yeah, man. All right. So the first one, the one that happened to me that comes to mind, and actually is it's funny that you asked this. See, this is the woo-woo of the world. Remember, I told you about getting my eyebrow punched, right?
And
trying to figure out. I was, and still am, a big fan of like melodic Swedish death metal, or metal like In Flames and At the Gates and stuff like that, right? Those are like big bands for me, as like when I started getting into more aggressive music. I was a huge In Flames fan before they started to suck. And now I think I was probably like 19 or 20, and I went to see In Flames at the Worcester Palladium, the upstairs. So it's like a 500 capacity, and it's a small stage, and like In Flames coming over from Sweden, seeing them in this environment was like, hell yeah. So I went, and this is still like, I was like 19 or 20 years old. So like moshing was still like, so I knew how to do it, but I was still like a little intimidated, especially when there was like, I'm a big guy. You can probably garner that I'm a larger guy, but I'm like a teddy bear. Like I'm afraid of everything, like I can mosh, but then if there's a guy bigger, I'm like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
In Flames are playing, and I'm kind of moshing and stuff. And then like I was the bigger guy, like the bigger fish, is like kind of commandeering the mosh pit. And I was like, I know a lot of people can relate to this. You want to mosh right when that one part that you love so much is about to happen, and you want to like, that's it, right? You want to go off when that one riff or that one breakdown or whatever. So I was gearing up.
You want to be in the fury as it comes in, not like, oh, it's hit, now I'm going to get into it.
Literally you want to, as Madball said, you want to set it off, right? You just like get in there.
Yes.
And you start right when that riff starts. So that's what I was like. There's a certain song that has this fucking sick riff, and I step forward and I just start swinging my arms. And that big guy that I had my eye on all night, who had been very intimidating, sure enough, it was like, like the two immovable forces or whatever. He connected, and his fist connected with my eyebrow and busted my eyebrow like wide open, just blood everywhere. And I was like, I was like so stoked for 1 second, and then the next second I knew that like the night was over, because like I could feel like the blood on my forehead. It was running down my face. And I stepped back, and I went back to the like where the stairwell is in the Palladium, and they always have the lights on. And sure enough, I was just like covered in blood. And I was like, this was cool, but like I wish it didn't happen. And I think that like from that moment, way back in being 20 years old, I was like, I'm gonna reconsider moshing from this point on, because like I don't want this to happen. And also, like I was mentioning, I don't want to do this to somebody else. Like it's so funny that I had this like introspective moment of like during In Flames in the mosh pit, getting my eyebrow busted open, sitting in the Palladium being like, hey man, maybe we shouldn't be so violent in the mosh pit. You know what? Maybe we should just try to watch out for each other. So that's one of probably many mosh moments that I've had, but that's like the one that came to mind, is like, I had a little bit of an introspective battle about wanting to like, really go off for a mosh part versus like, maybe, we shouldn't, or we should watch out for each other. So yeah, shout out to In Flames when they were good. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's a funny visual to think. I don't know if you watch like any anime or things like that, but it's kind of like as soon as the big connect happens, it's like things are like not frozen in time, but like ultra slow-mo. And it's like the monologue of like, have we become too violent as a scene?
Dude, 100%. That's exactly what it was like. That moment, my brain.
This is fucking sick, but I do feel the blood starting to pour down my onto my Air Maxes.
Yeah, exactly.
Rich, again, this has been a very fun chat. I knew that we would go the full time of our recording here, but we've hit on so much great stuff. All the links for your bands and for PV Deli are going to be in the description, in the show notes. Cool. Anything you want to shout out, anything you want to plug, anything you want to send the people off on?
I mean, if you're stuck along this far, check out anything that I've spoke about. I just want everybody to know about EDICT, my band, In Defense of Labor EP. Check that out if you want. But honestly, PV Deli, my Providence vegan deli, is going to be opening in a couple months. Check it out, please. I can't thank everybody enough times. Like I want to just give like a big hug of everyone who supported me with words, kindness, donations. But honestly, that's all. I just want everybody to fucking love each other. I mean, it's weird being in a band that writes breakdowns and yells about the government, but I really do. I want everybody to fucking love each other. So if you can pass along some sort of kindness to somebody else today, just fucking do that. That's my shout out.
I love that. That's very wholesome. Rich, again, thank you again for this very insightful and fun chat. And I'm wishing nothing but the best for the new business. It's going to be very, very surreal to see it like come to fruition. And maybe Earth Crisis Edict at PV Deli 2000 question mark. But we'll have to wait and see.
Dude, well, if it's any record of my manifestations on podcasts that you're involved with, maybe that'll happen. So
maybe.
Thank you so much, Spencer.